We all know that boxing can be a very frustrating sport to follow. If I were to try and list all the things that leave a bitter aftertaste, I would probably be here for the best part of a month. If I have to just pick one thing though, that I feel can really cripple the sport, that can really just reduce its quality, it would be the general inactivity of fighters, particularly the top earners. If we look at Anthony Joshua and Canelo Alvarez, I think they're the two real top earners and arguably most well-known fighters of today. Their first roughly penciled in fights of 2020 are about May and possibly spilling over into June. That is almost the first half of the year done with. Over the last 20 years in boxing, this idea has crystallized that the top guys only face their opponents, their supposed mandatories or top rivals, twice a year. And if one of those fights happens to be a bit of a throwaway, as it was with Golovkin against Steve Rolls, as it was with Canelo Alvarez against Rocky Fielding, even though it was for a title, we knew what was going to happen, then effectively they only really fight once, have one meaningful fight in 12 months. If we go back to 2000, Lennox Lewis and Roy Jones Jr. fought 3 times in that 1 year. And a little bit earlier, the original modern cash cow, Oscar De La Hoya, he had this incredible 16-month period where he fought Ike Quartey, Tito Trinidad, and Shane Mosley. There is no way any top fighter, especially with the kind of profile of Oscar De La Hoya, would have such a risky and crazy 16 months. And here's the real point with those fights. De La Hoya comes away with 2 losses against Trinidad and Mosley, and it does not dent at all his ability to generate a big gate. His star power pretty much stayed the same. When fighters only fight twice a year, it just slows the division down too much. And this has run along parallel with this idea Mayweather encouraged, where it's not always just about fighting the best guys at the best time in terms of what would make a good fight. It's what makes business sense. So it's almost who's the best at preserving themselves and waiting, almost lying in ambush for when they face their top rival and then they try and get the better of them. Imagine if that happened with Ali and Frazier. Imagine if Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali were about today. You wouldn't have had fight of the century. Frazier may have just waited and waited. They wouldn't have come to an agreement. They would have been promising on Fight Hype and all that how they're going to face each other. And then either Frazier loses to Foreman or swerves in. They wait and wait and wait. And the fight is just nowhere near as good as the one that took place in 1971. Now, I appreciate we're in different times. Fighters do not just have to fight to make money. There are many other ways. There are sponsors and just racking up the views with all the different companies there are. That allows them to make all kinds of money. So we're seeing the likes of a Chris Eubank Jr., who hasn't attained 10% of his father's greatness, razzing around in fancy cars. That is not a dig on his success. I wish anyone who has the balls to step in the ring success. But just when you see that imbalance there between what a fighter's getting out of boxing and what he's actually really put in and what kind of greatness he's attained, it just degenerates the quality of the sport. So when you have these throwaway fights between the big guys, the best things we can do if we really care about the quality of the sport is to not buy the pay-per-view and don't even bother clicking on any of those videos.